Look at that goofy grin and me holding up my cat. There's Pooh Bear. Anyways, ready, set, go. Now, so I hope everyone's having an awesome new year so far. Nothing grand has happened for me, but I plan to do a lot more this year. I'm sure many people likely didn't like 2018 all that much, but I had a wonderful time. It was the first year I didn't go to school for a whole year. Not that I had dropped out or anything serious. It was due to a weirdly planned schedule. While me mom and stepdad were busy moving our stuff to Utah, me sister and I were basically dropped off at our dad's place to stay for what was only supposed to be 3 months. I was actually happy it ended up being a 5-month stay, which meant I got to enjoy spending more time with me dad, whom I don't normally get to hang out with. Divorce! I know millennials get a bad rep for being lazy and self-entitled, of which I do procrastinate a fair bit, but I look to me dad a lot, so I have this strong sense of need to push myself and keep busy doing something with my time. My dad's mom and stepdad, whom we call Grandy and Papa, owned a well-kept campground / trailer park, which they had sold halfway through our stay there. But as part of his residency there, my dad had to clean and maintain the campground public bathrooms, which were gross from time to time, but his maintenance kept them pristine. About 2 months into our stay, I got tired of just playing my games and wanted to do something with my time that kept me moving. So, I asked my dad, and up until June, I went out each day with him to clean the bathhouses, pick up sticks, and help out around the grounds when necessary. I eventually started getting paid when I did the bathhouses by myself, which was fun regardless since it gave me something to do. Anyways, that's what I've been up to at the beginning of 2018, and the last half of I spent freezing in Utah. Not to say it hasn't been fun, just not as fulfilling, I guess. Me and my dad have this special bond as not just father and son, but as best friends. We like a lot of the same stuff. We enjoy talking about our days and funny things that happen. He's the one that got so invested in... Dang, I'm already messing up. Where was I? He's the one that got me so invested in drawing, honestly. We love comics. Our favorite DC character is Batman. We enjoy watching Batman movies and Star Wars together. In fact, our personal phrase we say to each other is a line from the 1989 Batman film. You are my number one, a guy. Both sides of my family agree that I'm pretty much his clone. My dad, not Batman. I look like him, talk like him, have the same humor and wit. When I was younger, he'd let me work with him during some of his previous lines of work. I helped him sand cars at an auto body shop. And for the longest time, I worked with him doing carpentry and light construction. This one time, my sister and I helped him during a restoration project on a 100-year-old barn. Those were the days that gave me that desire to work for what I want. Among myself and his close friends and a few of my mother's family members, including her one of her sisters and my cousins, we all have these simple nicknames among each other. When I was very young, and my dad and uncle were hanging out, my dad called me a silly goose, and my uncle yelled out in excitement, "That's what we'll call him, Goose Man!" And since then, that's been my special nickname. When me and my cousin Bobby, who's practically my brother, are hanging out, were called Slick and Slim. He was slick, and I was slim. Back then I was rather skinny, but still tall. We always called my uncle by his name, but my dad we always called him Worm. Don't know if I should say why, so that's a story for another day. On another note, I thought I'd draw this for him since we're massive Star Wars fans. And because his birthday is 2 days after mine, January 1st, I thought it would be fun to do this in celebration. Personally, I am great when drawing backgrounds, robots, and I have wonderful body proportions. However, I'm not that great with the hands, shoes, and faces. But I'm still improving, I think. My dad's dog is Harley. We call him our little brother since he thinks he's one of us. And we love his goofy behind to pieces. I didn't originally think of putting him in the picture, but I did, and I don't normally draw animals. That's more my sister's thing. I also decided to put Harley, their name is so similar. I also decided to put Haley in as well, but with no room, I decided I'd draw a TIE fighter in the background of the window looking out over space, and have a little bubble in the corner that I draw her in. Which I kind of feel bad since in the final drawing she looks like she has a manly jawline. But regardless, I hope everyone is having an awesome new year. And happy birthday, Dad. You deserve it. Well, that's as far as my script goes. But, yeah. 2018 was an okay year, I guess. Some eventful things were definitely fun. Hanging out with my dad for the first half and spending time with me mum for the other half. In fact, there have been some pretty fun times hanging out here in Utah. It's pretty much freezing, which for like me and my close friends know. I'm a Floridian through and through. I don't really care much for the cold. I feel better after like 10 or 20 minutes of sitting out in the cold, and it doesn't bother me as much afterwards. But overall, just getting used to the cold at first is what really gets me. Had some fun times here in Utah, and along the way whenever we were coming back to for whenever we went from Florida and made our way to Wisconsin to say hi to some of our family members that moved up there from Florida, and then make our way along the top half of the U.S. and make our way to Utah. But yeah, some pretty fun times. If I remember correctly, while we were up in Wisconsin, we hung out for like 2 weeks, I think, and then like after that we went and made our way to up to Utah. But while we were in Wisconsin, I got to hang out with some of my cousins who I hadn't seen in a long time. Among my mother, she has two sisters, my Aunt Cricket and my Aunt Angel. Cricket's real name is actually I don't remember what her real name is, but we've always just called her Cricket. And then her two children, Bobby and Kitty, they're pretty much like my sister and brother, like I said before. Catherine is Kitty's real name, but we just sort of always called her Kitty. And then my mom's other sister, an Angel, she has a plethora of children, which from oldest to youngest, there's Zach, Christopher, Caitlin, Brandon, Amir, and recently Aaliyah. Which I haven't really spent much time with Zach, but I do have a good few stories that I will eventually be doing storytime vids or whatever with about my time hanging out with my cousin Christopher and Brandon. And then Kaylin, for the longest time, she was pretty much the only girl until Aaliyah came along. And I've had some fun times with her. And then Amir, he's just a plain little brat, honestly. He's a little hellion. But it's still fun just watching him go. But while we were in Wisconsin, we were basically bunking in my and Angel's house, hanging out, occasionally saying hi to my Aunt Cricket and my cousin Bobby. And not before we finally left off for Utah after the 2 weeks. We pretty much just went to this like park that I don't remember what it was called, but there was like a water park that we went to, which everybody else pretty much hung out and went swimming, but I didn't. So while we were at this park, we enjoyed doing some of the other activities like go-karting and whatnot, which was tons of fun. I'm a massive fan of Mario Kart, so while we were going around and stuff, we were pretty much just making jokes about how like the go-karts were so small and I looked like Waluigi with my long, lanky legs. Oh man. And then at one point before we got to the go-karts, we basically got on this one rickety ride, which, by the way, wasn't built up with wood or anything. It was with why am I saying? It wasn't built up with metal or anything. It was just pure wood. And I think this park had like one of the longest wood rides in the U.S., I think. And it was also a place that was like famous for tourism, so there were some pretty cool sights. Like there was this one place where like a giant replica of the White House was like sitting upside down as if it had been lifted up and tossed on its side, which was a pretty cool thing to see in its own right. And then, I don't know, kind of had some fun times just hanging out. And that's basically it for my time in Utah, aside from hanging out with my Aunt Cricket and cousin Bobby, and also spending time with my mother's mother and stepfather, Banana, and and Papa Matt. Which, by the way, some fun little stories to talk about in the future about Papa Matt. Interesting stuff and whatnot. But after a little while and a long car ride from Wisconsin to Utah, eventually we got to Utah and had some fun times just hanging out. There's been like a few things here and there as far as funny stories of hanging out in Utah. So we went to this other park called Lagoon here in Utah, which that was pretty fun. Got to go swimming in freezing water before it actually got freezing. And you know, other fun stuff. Seeing animals, walking around. It was fun times. I even got to go on this, what was it, like, you know, like how there's like ski lifts and stuff? Well, they have this like lift system that takes you from one side of Lagoon to the other side. Honestly, I don't really care much for heights. It's just that weird feeling you get whenever you're up high in some place, and you feel like you just have that weird urge to just jump for some reason. I don't know. It freaks me out. But honestly, it was a pretty fun time. And other than a few like little stories and whatnot, not really much has happened up here in Utah aside from like the occasional random a moment that I'm just hanging out with my mother, driving around or whatever, and just something funny happens. Oh yeah, that also reminds me. Whenever we were in Wisconsin, we were just sort of hanging out, and it was recently my sister's birthday party, which we didn't get to properly spend and whatnot due to some stuff happening as we were dealing with getting ready to leave my dad's house and make our way up. But aside from that, we just sort of held her birthday party, and family members and whatnot came over to hang out at an Angel's place. And it was a bit of a weird thing, but one simple little funny joke and whatnot that I've pretty much let my mom off with for a while now, but I'm thinking of possibly bringing it back, is how for the longest time, while we were just hanging out in Wisconsin, my cousin Kitty was non-stop arguing and talking about how, like, Jello was made with, like, some gland from a beaver's butt or some weird rumor or something like that. I don't know. Hello. This is whenever the next day on the second, whenever I was getting ready to draw some more, and I had my other birthday party. Sorry about the tangent. By the way, here's my cat Garfield. There he is in all his glory. Fat cat. He's got some crust in his eyes. Anyways, pulling him away and then getting back on with the time lapse. So yeah, basically we were just hanging out, and at one moment, my mom is talking with my Aunt Cricket and her new boyfriend, and they're just sort of talking. And on the other side of the table, that is has other family members and stuff talking. My cousin Kitty is just talking along with some other guys or whatever. Zach, Brandon, Banana, my Nana, and just hanging out. And it was just perfect timing, I'll tell you. But basically, it was just the perfect moment. But right after my cousin Kitty said, "Yeah, it's made with beaver butt," at that exact moment, there was a perfect moment of still quietness. Where at that moment, my mother, I don't know what she was talking about with my Aunt Cricket and her new boyfriend, but basically, they were all just talking, and at one point in the conversation, my mom was just like, "Oh yeah, that was my nickname." And then in the most perfect, I tell you, the most perfect moment of comedy, basically, I wasn't paying attention to what they were saying. I was just hanging out, eating my cake and ice cream, and, just hanging out. And then all I hear, just out of nowhere, is, "It's made with beaver butt." Oh yeah, that was my nickname. And then and then the moment of quiet after that, nobody was really paying attention, but between the two parties that were speaking already. But essentially, the whole course of events was, I'm just sitting there, and I just simply hear, "Yeah, it's made with beaver butt." Oh yeah, that was my nickname. And to me, it sounded like my mom was answering to my cousin Kitty. So in that perfect moment of still quietness between those two sections, after my mom said that was my nickname, I essentially just said out loud to my mother, asking her in a questioning way, "Your nickname is Beaver Butt?" And then just out of nowhere, because I had been so quiet, and any time that I speak, pretty much everybody listens for some reason. It's like I'm a muse or something. I don't know. Basically, everybody just looked at me for a quick second, and then just everybody busted out laughing. My mother turned red at that moment and laughed out. Like that nervous laughter your mother has whenever something or whatever happens, and they're just surprised or whatever at it. It's just like that, it's hard to describe, but basically it's like that, "Woo, hoo, hoo," or something, I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. But basically, for half of the duration of our trip, whenever we were making our way to Utah, I just continuously laid into making sure that my mother didn't forget that moment. and just like referencing like anytime like it was just this weird thing where like 3 whole times during our trip there was just like moments where it was like there's a sign that says bear butt, then there's another 2 signs that says beaver butt, and I just laid into like just being like, hey, look at that, is your nickname. Yeah, you're so funny, replies my mother most of the time. But yeah, it was a fun moments. Oh yeah, and then here's the thing where I'm like that I was talking about before, where I'm trying to draw my dad's dog Harley, which personally, I just don't really draw animals all that often. It's my sister's thing to draw animals and dragons and whatnot. But here, to me, I kind of am reminded of Scrappy Doo, kind of. But anyways, and then currently, the thing I'm like holding my mother up to currently that I'm making fun of her for is how whenever after we were getting out of a chiropractor, we were just hanging out and then making our way back home, and then whenever we were going by a roundabout, some random dude like came out of one section and then drove all the way around, driving slowly in front of us, and then went out that same exit. And my mom was already in a rush, like usual, speed demon herself. And she was just like really annoyed with it. The guy doing that, and I wasn't paying attention. I was just listening to Queen on my phone. Don't stop me now. And my mother was just so annoyed by this guy driving out the same exit that he just came onto the thing from. So essentially, yet another one of those funny little moments that I'm not really paying attention, but then I pay attention at the like moment that I hear something weird. And basically, all I just hear was just her getting really angry at the guy for driving around on the roundabout. So now I'm basically making fun of her by just saying like, anytime she gets angry at something or whatever, and somebody asks like why she's angry, I just say like, oh, she's just being angry, you know, like that one time that she got angry for a guy driving around on the roundabout. And it just annoys my mother so much, but she can't help but like think it's funny as well. Oh yeah, another instance. Oh yeah, here's me drawing that TIE fighter in the background that my sister is supposedly driving in the background. But anyways, another funny moment while I'm just hanging out with my mother is like we go to hang out at or not hang out, we just stop at my mom's driving, I'm sitting in the car with her, and she's driving along, and then she stops at a gas station to refuel, and then pretty much, yeah, she just what was it? Stops, asks me if I want something. I tell her to go get root beer, and when she comes back, she just says that sorry they didn't have the kind of moot beer you were looking for, and we just sort of lost it. Yeah, but anyways, here's the finished picture. My dad's a massive Florida Gators fan, so I drew that in the bottom to fill up space, you know. And then there's Dog Harley. There's the Gators map. There's my dad as Darth Vader and me as Luke. And my sister driving in the background in the TIE Fighter. There's the text on the side saying Happy Birthday Dad in a Star Wars language. That bottom thing with the weird squiggly line thing is like supposed to be like a reference to the 5th movie, The Empire Strikes Back, I think it is. And essentially, that moment whenever the Death Star counter is like showing off the thing going around the planet. But anyways, there's also the picture of my sister with the manly jawline. But yeah, hope everyone has a new year. And until next time, so long! And if you want me to draw color this in, tell me down in the comments below. So long! Again.